Hi, I'm Doni. I'm Trinidadian Costa Rican.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. I'm Afro-Honduran. And we are your co-hosts for Negra Como Soy.
Or I'm Afro-Latina. Every Tuesday, we'll bring you the insights, perspectives, and history of the African diaspora in Latin America.
To educate, enlighten, and hopefully create a sense of belonging for you, our listeners and viewers.
Negra Como Soy is brought to you by Cultures, the global multicultural magazine. Cultures celebrates cross-cultural identity because everyone should feel like they matter. ¿Qué tal, Rhonda? ¿Qué tal?
Hey, bien, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué pedo vos?
How are you today? I'm in South America still. I'm in Argentina today. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because there's been a lot of hubbub lately in the United States about this, and we have lots of things to say. So we're going to talk about hair. You saw me playing with my hair. We're going to talk about hair. Look, everyone on the screen has different hair today. But our guest to talk about it, and she's the one who suggested we talk about this, is Antoinette Toscano. And she does a few things. She's not Afro-Latin, however, she is cross-cultural. And she is a contributor to Cultures and does a whole lot of outdoorsy things. This woman hunts, okay? I told her a long time ago, I was like, my ex-husband would have loved you. You are the wife that he wanted, right? Because I remember he was like, a friend of ours went hunting with her husband or something like that. He's like, you never do. I'm like, I'm not sitting in the cold with you. Yes, I might go hunting, but I'm not. You talk about sitting in the snow for hours. Like, that does not sound like fun, right?
You know, so it doesn't sound fun for me.
Right? Oh, we all know that Rhonda loves her heat, right? Back to Costa Rica. Can we turn off the air conditioning? What? Okay. So Antoinette hunts. She does archery, which I think is dang cool. Que chulo! Dang cool. Right? And she also shoots. Actually, I would love to do that. My brother does that. He goes to the shooting range, and that's something that I do. She repels, right? She does all the things. Whitewater rafts, I do that too. I don't repel, but she does all the things. So she's going to tell us a little bit about her activities and her channel, and then we're going to launch into black hair. Okay? So Antoinette, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. So I actually have, and I don't talk about this much, I actually do have Spanish heritage, but it's such a small percentage of my ethnicity from Spain that I don't really talk about it that much. I identify as Black. My family is from Nigeria, and I'm an indigenous Arawak from Jamaica, and a whole lot of Irish, it turns out.
Well, I didn't know that. I have a lot of Irish and Arawak as well. Interesting.
Wow. Nice connection there.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm an all-around outdoor adventure sports woman. I write about adventure sports, as well as cross-cultural lifestyle, and I hunt, fish. I am a mountaineer. I do climb and rappel, hike. I love ice fishing.
She really does. Another thing that you won't see me doing. So go ahead.
Stand-up paddleboarding, river surfing.
I might ice fish. I do like that. I don't mind the cold. I prefer the cold to the heat, but I don't want to be cold.
Well, you know, the great thing about ice fishing in Colorado is that we have over 300 days of sunshine here, and it might be -7 degrees outside, but when the sun is shining, I usually take off my coat or at least open my coat because it's so warm.
False advertisement. That's how my husband got me to move to Colorado. Not true, people. It's cold. Sun shining and it's still cold.
It's cold, but if the wind
no. We need to clear this up because I went down to Tucson and she thinks it's warm.
You were in Tucson in December. It
doesn't matter. You still said it was warm. It was freezing. It was colder than Colorado.
It was not colder than Colorado. No, it's because you were dressed for the desert expecting hot, but it was winter. And winter lasts 2 months, unlike Colorado, which lasts how long? Was it like 7 months of cold? 6 months?
Basically December
As
to
far as
February, March.
concerned, winter
No.
happens in
Again,
a
It's
false
true cold
advertisement.
winter happens in
No.
California. No,
October
no,
to
no, no, no,
May.
no. I
October to
do
May,
not
when it could
agree. I
snow,
do not
drop
agree.
below 50
I
degrees.
think
October to May. I
yeah,
was
I
I
there
have,
think
nine and a half
you're
years.
you're outspoken
I
with
have to
two
agree with Dr.
Colorado
Rhonda.
loving
Thank you.
people.
She just agreed with me.
Wait, what?
October to May, it
You?
could be below 50 degrees and it could snow.
Well, I have to tell you a
Well, of
story.
course
So
it could, but that's not that. Well, no,
And
no,
it
no.
usually
You're mincing
does.
words now. You're
I
mincing
was there
words.
9 months.
I am a PR person. I know how to
It
twist those
snowed
words.
Mother's Day
It's
weekend
not.
every year I lived there from 2012 till 2021. It snowed October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Might have only
Girl.
snowed
See,
once, but it
here,
snowed all those months every year.
here
yeah, I
is
spent
the
a lot of
problem
time
with
in the
what you're saying.
mountains, and it
Yeah.
gets very cold.
Thank
So
you.
in August, I took a group of white folks to camping, and it was like 90 degrees during the day and 31, and frost on icicles on the outside of the tent the next morning. But then it was like 90 degrees again during the day. So yeah.
So here's the problem with what Dr. Rhonda is saying. First of all, being in the mountains in Colorado is different than being in the city in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, yes, it can snow, but Colorado snow lasts like 3 days, right?
I don't want to see it at
My
all if it's
perception of
May.
but I mean, that's well, I'll give you that. You don't want to see it at all, but I don't want to be in cold ass Tucson. It's supposed to be hot, and I'm wearing a sweater and a coat, and I'm freezing to the bone, like chilled to
No
the
way.
bone, like the bones
It,
inside.
it was not that cold. I have pictures, and everyone who knows me knows I would not be in that kind of weather not dressed. And it's 2 months. 2 months it was cold. By February, it was already hot again and getting up into the 70s and 80s.
Okay, we'll clearly have to have another temperature discussion.
Yes.
The temperature discussion. But today we're going to talk about hair.
Yes, we are.
Anyway, you see, there's a difference of opinion. Rhonda and I want to be completely.
Yes.
So, okay. So I had put, okay, so we just had a cover for Cultures magazine with Anjanou Ellis, who was in the Will Smith movie about Serena and Venus Williams' dad. King Richard is the name of the film. And Anjanou played the mother of Venus and Serena Williams. She was our cover star. We talked about um, a film that she worked on, a short film that it was her vision about freedom fighter Fannie Lou Hamer. So I made a post on social media about Lupita Nyong'o she's Kenyan Mexican. She's cross cultural. And Lupita was like, doing that. What was that? The Simpsons thing where, you see Homer Simpson going back into the bush and he's doing the side look kind of thing. So Lupita was doing that at the Oscars or the Academy Awards when Will Smith, the infamous slap that was heard around the world, happened. And he sat back in his seat. And Lupita was like, what's happening? Right? So she did the little eyeball thing back into the bush. And so I posted that. And then Antoinette made a comment,
I said
which
that
was,
I am not angry at Will Smith for his reaction. And maybe it was because of my own visceral reaction where I wished someone had defended me. Not that I can't defend myself, but I wish someone had defended me all the times in my life from childhood to adulthood where I had to defend my hair and my choices about my hair and not having agency over my hair until maybe about 8 years ago. So where I took back my agency as a grown woman, I had to take back my agency over myself and of course my hair. And my reaction was thank you for every black woman, every multicultural woman that has ever had to suffer through comments about their hair. Thank you, Will. That was my reaction. That was like my gut reaction. And that lasted for days. Not that I'm
wow.
advocating violence, but my heart was just like, thank you. I needed that. I feel like he stood up for me and for every other woman that has ever received criticism about their hair.
Well, so there's a lot of a lot of, it's been weeks actually since that happened, and it's still a narrative. I mean, it's still in the news cycle. It's still literally on the internet every day, on news channels every day. Um, wow. Okay. So Rhonda and I, so Antoinette then sent a note, and she was like, "Hey, I would love to have this discussion." And so Rhonda and I started speaking of it. And Rhonda, you shared some things that happened with you with hair.
Yeah, I think when we were having the conversation, it was more about. I think I was talking about my changing hairstyles. My hair is constantly different because I get bored, and the way that I identify, and so people are less confused about me speaking Spanish or even Portuguese if I have my hair straight, if I have like, looser curls in my hair, if it's not braided, then it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, you look like you're Honduran. You look like you're from Central America or somewhere. Whereas if my hair's like this, then there's more question like, oh, really? How come you speak Spanish? You just look black, you know? And we've already had that conversation about blackness and the wide diversity that exists in using that label. But yeah, that was where my conversation was coming from. Just the texture of hair and how it frames the face and how people will choose to label or identify you based on that hair. So I believe if the three of us were in a room together and it was said, two of us, or even if it was like, guess who's Latina of this group of women, they would probably point directly at you, Antoinette, because of your hair texture, right? And they would be more surprised because Donnie has locks, my hair is in braids. Like, they would be more likely here in the United States. I have to specify for Donnie. Like, if we're here in the U.S., that people would point to Antoinette first and guess that she's probably Afro-Latina and would guess that Donnie and I are African American, just regular black, as they say, from the United States. So that's where I'm coming from in the conversation.
And I think that is an important distinction in the United States, right? I do agree that that would be very much an assumption that was made. So, it's interesting. So Rhonda had talked about, yes, we had a couple of different discussions. So one was an actual discussion. That's where we talked about your changing hair and that kind of thing. The other one was just the text commentary when we talked about Antoinette's comments. And you talked about the texture and people, assuming are you Afro-Latin or not. It's you all. In the United States, outside of the United States, I actually haven't had very many hair issues. I haven't had very many hair comments other than compliments for the most part. I can think of one time, and it was when I was transitioning to natural, okay, at Colorado State University, and this gentleman. So what I love about black hair, oh, what I love about black hair is you literally can do it all. You can do everything,
Silk
right?
press,
Like,
fro it out, curl
ah,
it up, braid it up.
yes, yes. And so I actually, one time, side note, a friend of mine who's mixed race, her father is African American, her mother was Dutch, and she was born in Holland and came to the United States and didn't speak English when she first came when she was like 5. And her sisters and her brother, they're all various shades, all different textures of hair, whatever. So her younger sister, one time I said, "Oh, okay." She has two younger sisters, and then my friend who was my age, I said, "I love your hair." I said, "You got the best hair of everybody." Okay, now, so she took it a certain way, okay, because now she came here at 5, and she's been in the United States since then. And then, but she didn't say anything. She kind of just paused, right? Looked at me, and I think she was shocked that I was the one saying this to her, right? And as we spoke some more, and I was like, "Yeah, it's so great. This is before I went natural and knew that I could do it too, right?" I said, it's so great because you wear it straight, you wear it curly, da 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 da. And then you could physically see she melted. And she's like, oh, that's what you mean. Okay. Because what I meant was different than what people typically say. Because technically, she would be the one in her family that had that good hair, right? Her younger sister's hair was more like mine, where mine's like Antoinette's, but tighter curls. Okay. So, and it didn't used to be that way. The curls have gotten tighter in the last 3 years. If I give you a picture of myself 4 years ago and forward, they were looser than Antoinette's, and I have 5 different types of curls on my head, right? Which, by the way, those kitchen curls, the ones in the back that they tell you, you know, you were supposed to try to get rid of, those are the best curls on your head. Like those are the most well formed, the nicest, the most beautiful curls are right back here. Anyway, I digress. So I learned all of that when I went natural, though, and then I remember thinking back to my friend, and realizing, oh my, and anyone who knows me when I went natural, I screamed it from the rooftops to everybody who would listen. I'm like, they lied, they lied. Our hair is fantastic, right? Because I wore relaxers for how many decades, right? My hair was straight and it was long. There was a time when people would always assume that your hair wasn't your hair because it's long, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That, I mean, everybody I know, because I knew black people from everywhere. There's just hair is just hair in terms of some people's hair is short, some people's hair is long, some people's hair is this, that, that. I was used to that, but then when I came to the States, it was like all of y'all's hair is like this, and over time that seeped into my psyche. So when I finally went natural, and I went natural not as any kind of statement, because as I got older, I always had all this hair. My hair was so thick. The strands aren't thick. The strands are fine. My hair is very fine, and people have a hard time believing that, right? Very fine and very soft, but I have a lot of it. So as I got older and I kept straightening my hair, it was getting flatter and flatter and flatter because the strands themselves are very fine, right? And so I went natural because it was flat. It was flat and thin, right? And I was wearing it straight. So I started going natural and it looked very full and very curly and all wonderful. Okay. So then I discovered, like I said, I screamed from the rooftops. I tried to get everybody and their brother to change to natural because I'm like, your hair is fabulous too. Look, my hair's fabulous. Look, yours is fabulous. They've been lying to us, lying. Look, the kitchen is nice. Right? And so that's where I come to now, right? And so going, I know I'm so grateful for how I grew up and being in different places and seeing so many different types of hair, because I don't have that internalized, except for when I came here and then having to say, oh, they lied to us, our hair is fabulous, right? I don't have that internalized, oh, but there's something wrong with your hair, right? I can think back to people making little comments like, "Oh, the Negroid hair," because in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a lot of East Indians, so they have very straight, very black hair, and there's a lot of mixing, so there's all types of hair. So every once in a while, you'll hear something about Negroid hair, this and that, but I didn't hear it enough to know that that meant something bad, that you were trying to get rid of it or whatever. Whereas you say Antoinette, Arawak Indian in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Like the Native Americans in this part, in this part, I'm in South America right now, but in North America, those are different indigenous people than where my cultures come from, right? And so, yeah, hair was just a thing, and it was beautiful, and I didn't have to deal with those kinds of comments. But I get it now that we come here and then come back to Chris Rock. Now, okay, so I get it, Antoinette. Like, you feel defended, okay? But I don't know that I feel like he was making a comment about hair. Do you guys really feel like he was making a comment about?
So here's what I took from it. I had a
Okay.
similar reaction to Lupita. I heard what he said and I felt offended because
Wait. To Chris,
I heard
Chris,
what Chris
or
Rock
to?
said and I felt offended.
Yep. She wasn't offended at Chris. She laughed at Chris. She was her look. Her little sideways look was when Will Smith lost his mind a little bit.
Right. But when I heard
Right.
Chris Rock's words, I took it personally. I felt it. And I looked at Jada Pinkett Smith's face, and I felt a feeling that I have no idea what was in her mind, but I recognized that look. I recognized that emotion around hair. And what I felt when he made that comment is, boy, you know better. You did a whole documentary about hair. You know the black and brown woman's experience around hair. And you made a comment about a black woman's hair choice. That's how I felt. I felt insulted. I felt like we have to defend our hair in the workplace, in the boardroom, in the bedroom, in our communities. My father didn't want me to have a relaxer, so my mother went behind his back and relaxed my hair. And I didn't want it either. I loved my big curls that were down to my bicep when I was a kid. I thought that was amazing. And my mother would tell me all the time, it's a good thing you're smart because you're not the pretty one. Because my sisters are very pretty.
You are very pretty.
Yeah. Don't even
I'm
let me
sure
start
you've
I
heard
crying
it
about
enough
this.
now, but you're so pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my
I'm so
mother,
yeah, I'm
I'm
so
adopted. I'm sorry, what?
no, I'm flabbergasted that your mother are so you're adopted. Are you were your sisters their natural children?
No, my parents had one biological child, an older son who's 14 years older than me. Love him, but he and my parents have passed on. And then they adopted four children, three girls and one boy, and I'm the youngest. My parents are African American. My mother's family has indigenous and white heritage because you know about that slavery thing. And she has bone straight jet black hair. And my sisters
Uh,
have very short, kinky hair, and they are absolutely gorgeous, just really gorgeous women. Um, and I was thought of as ugly in my family, and my mother would tell me all the time, it's a good thing you're smart, it's a good thing you're nice because you're not pretty. And you need to do other things because you're never going to get a man.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
wow.
but I realized as a young
I'm
child,
so
it's much your character and what you offered the world is much more important than how you look. So I didn't realize that it bothered me until I was older. I thought I kind of, shook it off, but as I got older, I realized that her messages did seep in. And my whole community would tell me, do something to your hair. Why does it look so wild? My track team even called me Broomhilda because I looked like the cartoon witch when I ran and my hair was all whatever. They would say, tame that hair. If I heard tame that hair from another person of color in my life, I thought I was just going to lose it. White people would never tell me anything negative about my hair. It's always very positive. I wish I could have hair like yours. But black people would always tell me, and these were primarily black people raised by Southern black parents who moved to New York City, right? But Caribbean black people would say, what are you? And I'd say, I'm black. No, you're not. And I even got beat up. I got beat up at 4 years old by some Boricua girls who were like, you just don't want to be Boricua. You know you're Puerto Rican. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm black. And they beat me up, like jumped me.
but
Like I
they
jumped at
but
4.
so they were Boricua, blah, 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 now I can't speak Boricua in the United States or they were
Yes.
from Puerto Rico. See, and I think that's a big
That's a good
distinction.
question. That's a
What'd you
good
say?
question. I don't know that because I was too young to really know. But my suspicion is they were probably born in Puerto Rico because they had a very thick accent and they lived in our community, but there wasn't a huge Afro-Latino or Latina community within our community, even though it was multi-ethnic community in Queens, New York. But they were looking for allyship. So the black girls were beating them up. They wanted more Latinas to kind of, be together so that there would there would be safety in numbers. And here I am, like a 4-year-old kid with these teenage girls and, like middle school girls. And they were like, oh, another Puerto Rican girl. And I'm like, no, I'm black. And they beat me up. And then black girls would try to cut my hair, put gum in my hair, tell me, you think you're cute. My sisters even say that. You think you're cute because you have good hair. I'm 4. I don't know what good hair is. I don't even know what cute is yet, right? And
Wow.
so, like, I spent my entire life trying to hide my hair when I was in my community because someone had an opinion about it. I wasn't black enough to the black girls. I thought I was cute to the black girls who were like, African girls. And if they were a mixed race girl or a girl from the Caribbean or from some other Spanish speaking country, they would think that I'm trying to deny my Hispanic heritage to fit into a mostly black community. And so I was, and then also, the way I talk. I had a lisp as a kid, so I went to speech therapy at 4. And people would tell me all the time, you're trying to be white, you sound like a white girl, why you gotta enunciate every word. And I'm like, I'm 4, I don't know how to talk, so like my whole life I've always been other. I've always had that question, where are you from? Not because of my skin, but because of my hair. and
Well,
and
and Rhonda
wherever I
and I talk
live.
about that, right? I mean, we're used to those types of things, right? Like I've gotten the "Where are you from?" I get that all the time. Have gotten a lot of questions about my hair. My thing though, when I was little, and as you all know, I grew up around the world. I was in the United States. How old was I when this happened? I think I was like probably 6 or 8. I had a lot of hair, and this was in the United States, and so um, uh, the kids on the playground would always say that I was wearing a wig. That's how much hair I had. My whole life, people have accused me of having fake hair. Okay. No matter what I'm doing to my hair, there's times I've chosen to add to it, but for the most part, it's usually my hair. Everyone, for as long as I can ever remember, is beginning on the playground, because I had, during when you had picture day, my mom pressed my hair on the stove with a hot comb, right? Came to school with all the
Mm-hmm.
curls, right? Hair straight, all the curls. And people were like, why are you wearing that wig? Because I had that much hair, right? And I'd be like, they'd want to fight me. Nobody ever fought me though, because I have a lot of muscles. People talk, they don't try to fight me though. I'm getting older now, so I should probably stop saying that because the muscles go away. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting to see, and I feel like it's a blessing to have had different experiences except for a monocultural. When I say monocultural, because clearly what you're talking about isn't a monocultural experience, it's a cross-cultural experience. But when I say monocultural in this context, I mean single nationality, right? Meaning you're in one culture that perceives things to be a different way. And so all of the cultures that you were interacting with were really, what has seeped into them was the attitude of what was happening in that particular milieu, in that localized environment, right? And I feel like I'm
It's
fortunate
the
enough to
culture.
have been in one like that, but then also gone other places. So it didn't stick, right? You started to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the cultural baggage of the closer that you are in a post-colonial world, the closer that you are to what white beauty is valued, and then that became a limiting belief of, well, if you're dark skinned, you're not attractive because, that doesn't look like the
Which I've
colonizer's
never believed that.
perception of beauty.
I'm just saying.
So I was not thought of as attractive in my home because I have a broad nose and big lips, and
But then they're telling you
yeah,
that you think you're cute because of your hair. Wow.
right.
And that's outside. I've I've heard the opposite of that. Like, well, I did hear in New Orleans, especially with the Creole culture, people prefer the looser curls, and then you're prettier if you're dark and your hair is loose, then like you're really special and exotic looking and pretty. But also within the Latin American community, especially, there's always that talk of pelo malo.
Hmm.
So your hair, you got to a certain tightness of your curls before you have pelo malo, and you have the hair. Nobody wants that. That's that ugly hair. Now you need to go get it pressed. You need to get a relaxer put on it or whatever, right? Um, or you
Well,
cut it all off.
I have
You
to
keep it
admit,
cut low.
mm, I have to admit, it's interesting
And
because my younger
no,
brother
go ahead.
are light. So my mother is lighter. My dad, he's the Latin one, but he's the darker one. He's very dark. And my mother was the lighter one, and my mother has the more, not coarse curls, but the tighter curls. My father's hair is very silky. Okay, my older brother and I got my father's hair. So, like I said, in the last few years, my curls have gotten tighter, but it's still very silky. My hair has always been, all I have to do is take a brush and to straighten it, right? Or sleep on it and it'll go straight. And but there's still so much to that. Or even, I'll tell you what, when I was natural before I had the locks, I went to, in Fort Collins, Colorado, a hairdresser who was white. She was like, she's like, "Oh, I can work on Curly's hair. My daughter has curly hair, this and that, whatever." I'm like, "Okay." So I went, and I'll never forget. Man, I gave her a cross eye because she was like, "They're just so tight." And I looked at her like, Heffa, you better. It's like, I'm about to knock you out. What are you talking, right? Like, you said you could do this hair. But it was interesting. It was, and I think that's what you're alluding to. It was almost like the tone of it was like disgust and surprise all at once. Like, but really what it was rooted in is she said she could do this and she didn't know how to do this, right? If you know how to work with
Hmm.
curly hair, you know how to work with curly hair. She, however, didn't. She only knew how to work with her daughter's hair, which was barely wavy, I found out later, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm
You
telling,
know
Hmm.
what I find
Front. Uh,
go ahead, go ahead.
what I find interesting is when I've traveled throughout the world or lived in other countries, um, no one ever questioned my blackness. No one ever questioned, um, I don't know, no one ever said your hair is ugly or whatever. It was just kind of, your hair
Later.
is your hair, right? But in the United States is
Yeah.
where the criticism came. And I remember when I went natural because I had psoriasis and the
Mhm.
entire top of my head, about a fistful of hair just fell out, bald
Wow.
as smooth as a baby's bun. And I
mm,
didn't know if it'd ever come back. And I had to have a little weave there. And my stylist, worked with me, and my hair did grow back. I used a treatment from my doctor, and it grew back. And she said, "Well, what do you want to do with your hair?" Because I had like 2 inches of curly hair here, and then the rest was relaxed. And I said, "Cut it all off 2 inches, like every bit of it." And so I cut all my hair off, and I came into work um, with curly short hair, and I was a chief executive officer in an IT company, and all the black women wrangled me into the break room and said, "What have you done? You made it into the boardroom. You're in the C-suite. You can now advocate for us. We can be treated fairly. And now you've gone and done that to your hair, and now they're going to find a way to get rid of you. And what about us?" And I was
wow.
just like, these were like older aunties, and I was like, sorry, and so even my husband at the time, he was kind of, who's black, was like, "I don't like your hair. You need to do something with it. Can't you wear a wig?"
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so just like my mom and um, my coworkers and my partner, their identity was wrapped up in my identity and who I am. And so, he liked the corporate executive who looked like a diva and drove the big Mercedes. I don't have any of that now because I live a different lifestyle, but
And you're free.
that was the image that he had of me, and I changed.
Wow.
And so he lost some of his identity because his wife doesn't look the way that, that felt made him feel good or made him feel successful. And I shouldn't have to have straight hair to feel like
Right.
I'm a success. I still have an MBA. I still have all these years of experience. I still have my intelligence. I just have shorter hair and it's natural. But the beauty of it is I took back hours of my life by having short hair and natural hair. All the hours each week that I have to spend under the hair dryer, drying my hair and curling my hair, and trying to have an adventure sports lifestyle Friday through Sunday, and then racing home on Sunday to do my hair so that I can look good in the C-suite on Monday. And it was a lot, and it was stressful, and I felt like I was code switching,
Hair.
and that felt really uncomfortable.
So
I don't code
that's
switch
interesting
anywhere in
because
my life now.
I do remember I had long hair when I was younger. My niece actually, she cut all of her hair off because her mother was very heavy handed and she's tender headed like I am. And when she was 5 or 6, her hair was to her knee. Like I have a picture of me pulling the curls down, and went to her knee. And when she got to be about, I think, 13 or so, she cut a bunch of it off because her mom had made the comment, oh, because she hated getting her hair combed all the time, right? Because of the heavy handedness. And the mom said, oh, it's just so much. And so when I went to see her in Las Vegas where they live, I was like, what? Why does her hair look so much thinner? And she's like, oh, she cut it, and she was like, I was just trying to be helpful. So she cut off her hair because she heard her mom say how much work it was to do, right? And my niece, speak of hair, so that's why I started to go with my dad is darker, my mom is lighter, but my little brothers, their father is more my mom's complexion. But their hair is the tightest of all of those. Rhonda, you were talking earlier, I don't remember the name you called it, but it's probably that kind of hair. Because my stepfather used to call it little peas, like their hair would roll up into little peas on their
Frijoles.
and so
My Mexican friends told me say they love my curls because they look like frijoles.
who said that to
I
you?
was like, I'll take that as a compliment. My Mexican friends in North Carolina, I was like, I'll take that as a compliment, but I'm not really sure. So I don't know.
You
But
said it looked like beans?
Yeah, that's how I would have been like, what's wrong? It's so funny.
but in context,
Go ahead.
they love black beans, right? So
Yeah.
this community of people from um, DF, District Federal, Acapulco. So they assumed that I was from DF because, black slaves escaped there and they look like me with the broad nose and the big lips and, which I love my face now, but it was like a process
I don't
of
find your lips that
learn.
big.
I think I always loved my well,
don't
I
find
mean, by today's standards, they're not. But I'm old. I'll be 55, right? So by
What?
yeah, I'll be
Holy
55 in
cow.
November. But by 1970 standards, this was not the standard of beauty, and so like. I always loved me. I always looked at my face and say, I love my face. I like my face. I didn't understand why other people didn't like my face. And so I had to come to like be okay with I have not found my tribe yet. People, they don't get me, they don't understand me, they don't like me, and it's okay because one day I'm going to grow up and I'll find my people,
Well, girl,
right?
you found
And what I mean by my people
people.
is people who just like me for who I am.
Yes. Well, you found your people
So,
today.
first of all, come on 55. Come on 55. I would not. It's not just the skin, which is another episode. It's also the energy. It's also the activities that you're doing. It's also just the life you're bringing. Like 50 what? Okay, that's beautiful.
So
Because
um,
black
so
will crack, but only if you take care of
right?
it.
I
right.
mean,
Well,
you
yeah,
look
we said
good.
okay,
But I was gonna say, I was gonna say about like that whole culture around the hair and everything. My both my girls, I had their hair natural, and my mother was like just could not stand it. Could not stand it for the longest. Funny enough, now she wears her hair natural and goes around telling other people why they should. But I'm not gonna go there. Anyway, we got into a huge fight because I had moved back home to New Orleans. with my daughter, my eldest daughter, and I was working a lot trying to afford to move out of her house. And my daughter called me while I was at work. I was doing like a job where I was driving around a lot, and she was like, "Grandma says she's gonna straighten my hair. She's gonna put a relaxer in my hair, and she told me I better not tell you." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm driving over there right now." So I drove over, and it was so bad. And my mother will hate that I'm telling this story, but hey, don't put out there what you don't want everybody to see. Anyway, she in front of me was reprimanding my daughter. How dare you call her and tell her what I was gonna do? And it was like this whole thing. My daughter's hair was so big, like huge fro, and we would do like big afro puffs. Like it was just so cute. And she was just so insistent, so insistent. I think Adia was like 10 at the time. And she finally wore her down at 13. I sent her to New Orleans for the summer. I wasn't living there anymore. And she convinced Adia to let's go get a relaxer. Your hair will look so pretty. And then over the course of like probably 7 to 8 months, I just watched her hair get shorter, 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 because every time she went, "Oh, it's broken, we need to clip it off." And we couldn't keep up the like going every week for the stylist to keep her hair up. And she couldn't maintain at home like the wear the bonnet and wrap the hair and all of that stuff. So she ended up having very short hair from having like low back length hair because of the relaxer, and she didn't look better like her grandma had promised her. She would look so much prettier, and she didn't enjoy it. And now her hair's natural and everything, but it's just that culture of the hair, and
So
it needs
perfect
to look a certain way
segue
to fit
because
in
we've
or
run
to be
out of
presentable.
time today. But Antoinette, we'll have
Yes.
to have you come back because we talked about beauty as well. So I think we can finish this hair discussion, but also talk about the skin discussion next time and what it really takes to keep Nubian
Yes.
skin up. So we will invite you back. We're going to continue with this. But for today, thank you so much for being here. Wow, I'm still a little
Thank you so
flabbergasted and
much
in
for coming.
shock at some of the things that you've shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could read all about it in
You're
my upcoming
gorgeous.
memoir.
In your upcoming
Bye.
You're gorgeous. Thanks for coming on. Ciao.
wait. Retell about it in your
Memoir.
okay
Memoir.
in your upcoming memoir. Okay, got it. Thank you. We'll make sure to have that in the comments in the episode, and then we will have you back. Adios.
Bye.
Ciao.